This first song, I was trying to figure out whether to play this one first or Stand By Me first. And Stand By Me is so, uplifting. And my other song is more poetic and deep, like the opening lines. It's called Change, and it's, even says like talking about death at one point. But we decided to start with this song first. It's a beautiful one. It's one of my favorites. Change by Big Thief. Change like the wind, like the water, like skin. Change like the sky, like the leaves, like a butterfly. Would you live forever and never die? Well, everything around passes. Would you smile forever and never cry? Well, everything you know passes. Death like a door to a place we've never been before. Death like space, the deep sea, a suitcase. Would you stare forever at the sun and never watch the moon rising? Would you walk forever in the light to never learn the secrets of the quiet night? Still like a stone, like a hill, like home. Still, what I find is you were always on my mind. Could I feel happy for you when I hear you talk like we used to? Could I set everything free when I watch you holding her like we once held me? Change like the sky, like the leaves, like a butterfly. Change like a door to a place never been before. Would you live forever and never die? everything around us is.
Braydon, could you move the chair?
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't do this last time. Did you come over here with me? Because it's very important to Everyday Center for Spiritual Living that you receive the appreciation that is being expressed for you and your beautiful talent. Every day. Woo! Good morning, Facebook. Oh, and good morning, computer, and good morning, Zoom.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
What a beautiful start to a beautiful day where I actually experienced coolness
Yes.
for a little while this morning.
Yeah.
And for that I am so grateful.
Yep.
I'm so grateful.
Whew. I was wondering what Reverend Diana Lee might do with my talk title, because my talk title today is Oops, My Ignorance is Showing. And she found a beautiful reading that was so appropriate, and I think I'll just leave you alone. And it was appropriate because it took us in a different direction. And I love moving in a different direction. That is our challenge, you know. If we're going to change our life by changing our mind, it means moving in a different direction. And then Braydon sings about change. And so there must be a theme here. Now, Oops, My Ignorance is Showing. The minute I wrote that title, and I thought to myself, oh boy. The minute I wrote that title, what I remembered was back in the day when women wore slips, which meant they were wearing a dress or a skirt, right? And they wore slips.
Yeah.
And there was always this thing about, oops, your slip is showing, right?
Yep.
And then I thought, well, there's a perfect tie in there. Because if our ignorance is showing, our consciousness has slipped.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This month's focus has been my Emancipation Proclamation. And I, so far, have been speaking about the ignorance that exists, the misunderstandings that exist, the divisiveness that exists, and is everyone familiar with a website called Snopes? 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 Snopes is where you go to look up whether or not what you just read on the internet is true. Snopes is a website that uncovers scams, that uncovers falsehoods, that uncovers old wives' tales that have no bearing. And it's just Snopes, SNOPES.com. And I had this particular thing in mind for my talk this morning, and I decided to look it up on Snopes just to make sure that the information that I thought I had was the truth. And as it turns out, it is not. So my ignorance was showing, but I had the wisdom to double check the facts. And there is a story, and I'll share with you a little bit about the process. There is a story that some of you may be familiar with about the word picnic. That during segregation times, that during the times of slavery, that during all of that going on, the origin of the word picnic was about picking a black person to lynch so that everyone could watch. There would be a gathering to watch. And Snopes let me know under no uncertain terms that that was baloney.
Yes.
That picnic actually originated in 1676, to be precise, from a French word. And if my French were in any shape at all, I would be able to pronounce it for you. But it's, if you can imagine picnic with a French accent, that's what it sounds like. And at that time, it was in this book that was printed that has a really long title that's all French that I can't begin to repeat. And it was sort of about ideas for entertaining at the time, having nothing to do with hunting down anybody. It was about gathering friends and everybody bringing food, which to me just sounds like a good idea. And it evolved into being outdoors. But it wasn't then. The original idea wasn't about being outside and on blankets and maybe by the river and that sort of thing. It was about gathering friends, everybody bringing food. So first of all, I was very happy to know that the story that I had believed, and as a matter of fact, there's an author a writer for the New Mexican, who has been using the word picnic many times since July began. And I would complain to Denise, oh my God, why doesn't somebody tell her that picnic is offensive? The word picnic is offensive. Well, apparently it's not. Apparently it's not offensive. Now, Ernest Holmes said many times in his writings that ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Right.
Now, what's he talking about? What what's he mean about ignorance of the law is no excuse? Because if we don't know, like I didn't know until I double checked my facts, if we don't know what the law is, then how are we supposed to discern what the best choices are? What is the highest good for all? What does it mean for there to be, as Denise said in her opening treatment, no disconnection? What does that mean? Especially when the world seems so disconnected. Right?
Right.
So I think it's only fair that if we don't know what the law is, that I tell you. Because it really shouldn't be something that I know and keep it all to myself, or the practitioners know and keep it all to themselves, or anyone who has taken a class with me knows and keeps to themselves. It's really for everyone to know. So the first thing you need to know about this thing that Ernest was referring to as the law, it has nothing to do with civil law. It has nothing to do with judges and attorneys and traffic lights and tickets and etc. What it has to do with is how the universe operates. And the first thing you need to know is that there's only one. There's only one life, there's only one power, there's only one presence, there's only one intelligence, there's only one conscious creator that has somehow come up with all of this and all of us. And that intelligence, that energy, that consciousness works the same, law number 2, works the same for everybody, everywhere, all the time.
Yes.
Everybody. Everywhere. 24/7. Now, whether we can see it or not, whether or not we can see it working to our satisfaction, isn't necessarily what happens. Gosh darn it. You know? Because we want to, this is hot for me, we want to know that someone who is behaving or making choices or causing issues in a troublesome way, we want to know that they're paying for it. Whether they are someone who is now in our personal life or was, I know. I see lots of eyes looking back at me. You're not nodding your heads, but I know that there have been people in most, if not all of our lives who didn't behave the way we thought they should and didn't make the choices that we thought they should. And by golly, if there is a God, they should have, they should have been punished for it. Well, the thing is this, that the law works the same for everybody, everywhere, all the time, does not mean that there is a divine essence, a divine being, a God, an Allah, a Sydney, whatever we want to call it, him or her, that has a personality like we do.
That's right.
And yet we learn, most of us very early on, to give it a personality. And to, because people would talk about the divine, would talk about God, would talk about this spiritual essence, and would talk about it as if it thought just like we think.
Yep.
But it doesn't think like we think any more than the person sitting next to you does. And what I have to say about that is, thank heavens.
That's right.
It is original thought. So the thought, if we want to think of it in terms of having a thought, that thought is love. That thought is wholeness. That thought is universal peace. Not necessarily our idea of what peace looks like. What's interesting is that part of how the law works is that it matches what we think. It matches what we believe as it acts through us. You know, whatever descriptor you're using, none of the things that we desire, none of the things that we think would be good can happen without going through us. Individually. Because every single one of us has a different idea about what that is.
Yes.
And even though we are here this morning, especially those of you over there, because clearly there's an issue with this side of the room. What is good? What is right? Which we're going to talk about very soon. Not this week, but very soon, like next week. What works? What does it mean for the law to work? So, you may have heard me mention, or others mention, what goes around comes around. That's another way of talking about the law of circulation. And the law of circulation is not a boomerang. It's a what goes around comes around. It's a circle. Now, we may think of it as a boomerang. We may hope it's a boomerang, especially if we have an attitude about somebody or preconceived ideas about what should happen to somebody who isn't making the kinds of choices that we think they should be making. Of course, I can't think of anyone who comes under that category. It's none of our business.
That's right. Ick.
I know, ick is right. I just took all the fun out of it. It's none of our business. It's not our lane. whatever the circumstances, conditions, and effects are that are part of the law of circulation for each one of us, the only one that's our business is ours.
Yes.
I read something very interesting just this morning, and I have read it, I can't tell you how many times before, but this morning, there was something about it that just jumped out at me. And that was that in every moment, we have the past with us, we're in the present, and we're seeing the future simultaneously. Now, the past is with us because it's part of who we are, right?
Yes.
And we can judge it all we want. We can feel guilty. We can feel ashamed. We can feel regret. We can feel all those things that we might feel about the past. And guess what that changes?
Nothing.
Zip. It changes nothing. Because the past is the past. That ship sailed a long time ago, even if it was just 5 minutes. Cooked, done, bye-bye. The present is where the action is,
Yeah.
not the future. The future will be the present.
Yeah.
So the present is where the action is. The present is where our creativity hits the ground. The present is where we can really make a difference. We can really make a change. And that is how the law works. Because that one life, that one power, that one presence, that one love, that one wholeness, that one creator, creation, creativity, activity. Did you hear all that? The present is all there is. We're the ones with the idea of past and future. We're the ones. So, somebody give me an example of something that they're praying for. Something that some kind of good, some kind of juicy change they want in their life. Somebody give me an example. You're already done. You don't have an example anymore. Stephen?
Lots of money.
Lots of money. Oh. Well, we could be here for another long time talking about that. All right, but let me see if I can do this quickly. So lots of money means what to you? Not in terms of how much, but what when you feel into having however much lots is. Stephen's version of lots. How does it feel compared to how you feel now? How do you imagine it feeling? Okay, so thank you. Because if we're praying for something, or we're calling forward a change in our lives, and we don't know what it's going to feel like as our experience, we got to start there. We have to back up and start there. We have to imagine the feeling of the change. May I use you as an example, Carol? So when Carol Rose decided to sell her business, which actually was many decisions, it was many more decisions than she realized at the time when the process began. But when she decided to sell her business, it was a while before she really clarified in her mind how it would feel to her, what that meant to her in terms of feeling, not money, not anything else, but what that meant to her in terms of feeling when all was said and done. And what it meant to her in terms of feeling was freedom.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't just going to sell her business, she was going to retire as part of selling her business. And she's had this business for almost 15 years. And she is deeply invested in the Santa Fe community at large. Like she knows everybody. I'm not kidding. And so imagining that she no longer would have her business as a vehicle to know everybody was going to change her life dramatically. Plus other things. There were other things that she realized along the way that were going to be different, and she wasn't so sure. She was sure she wanted to sell her business, but see, she wasn't so sure that she had hit on the feeling. Finding the feeling. Ernest Holmes speaks about the feeling tone and the fire of the feeling of what it is that we want to experience. Because the vehicle for that experience may not be money. It could be a lot of things. It could be being lavished with free everything. It could be a lot of things. But if we don't know what the feeling is, there is no cup to be filled. What am I talking about the cups? And I know I'm going long, Denise, and just keep an eye on it. If we take our ask, our desire, to the source of provision, of which there is only one, we get confused about that. We think it's our job. We think it's our tenant. We think it's a lot of things. But there is only one source of provision. And we go to the source of provision with a thimble, it will be filled. And if we go with a cup, it will be filled. And if we go with a gallon, it will be filled. And if we go with an open well, it will be filled. Because that's the way the law works.
Yes.
It's so important and so valuable to each of us to have this information in our pocket, not in our head, but in our pocket, in our heart. Because when our faith gets wobbly, anybody's faith ever get wobbly?
Yeah.
When our faith gets wobbly, we're putting it in the wrong thing.
Yeah.
We're putting it in the wrong place. If the law works the same for everyone, everywhere, all the time, where do we want to put our faith? In the present, right now, in the activity of creation, of which we are a part, that is always flowing through us, just ready and waiting to be directed. Whoa. Ready and waiting to be directed. So the old ideas about God being the director
Mm-hmm.
are false,
Yes.
because that's not how the law works.
Right.
The law waits for our direction. And it says yes every time.
Yes.
Every time, no matter what. So if our ignorance is showing, it's only because we've forgotten. Now, I'm not asking you to run around and tell everybody that the law works the same for everybody all the time, because they don't have the backstory, right?
Right.
But you do, on the other hand. Check it out. Test it. It loves tests. How do I know that? Because I have tested it to the end of its wits at times in my life. Check it out. See what happens. Stop waiting for somebody else to fulfill your dreams. Or if they would, would just see, if they would just get their act together, well, where does the act have to be together to start the whole thing in motion? It's not with them. He's sitting there going like this. This is the act that has to be together.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And we are all here to support each other in remembering. Isn't that the coolest thing in the world? Because I love the part of the story that Diana Lee shared where she said that if you talk to your friends and friends and family and whoever else may have an opinion, believe me, they're going to have one.
Yes.
And it probably isn't going to be very supportive. Because they're ignorant of the law. And it's not their fault. There's opportunities to learn differently. But it's not their fault that they haven't. It's not an excuse for blame or shame or ridicule or judgment. It's a reminder for us to remember our source and supply.
Mm-hmm.
For us to remember how the law works. Because ignorance is no excuse.
Yes.
No. Thank you, Joseph.
That's powerful. I love the progression of the songs that also follow, because the first one being change and death and introspection, and I even struggled with the third verse of that song when it's like, can I still love you when I see you with her, or something like that. And I was thinking like, how do I opt out? But I'm like, I'll just sing it. And it still feels appropriate, because I mean, especially with me, I'll take responsibility of struggling with the different opinions, the different life, the separation, the change, the death, and to take responsibility for that, to feel the change and transformation, and then to lead into this song, Stand By Me. I think it's exactly how you kind of ended it, right? As we choose to find our own solidarity and truth and strength, and empower each other through that, and through supporting each other in that. Yeah, so. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we see, no, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky we look upon should crumble and fall, and the mountain should rumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. Stand, oh, stand. Stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky we look upon should crumble and fall, and the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand and stand by me.
Woo!